For the first time in his NBA career, Kawhi Leonard is no longer under the system of arguably one of the greatest coaches of all time, Greg Popovich. NBA TV's Matt Weiner sat down with Hall of Famers Isaiah Thomas, Kevin McHale, and Grant Hill, as well as two-time NBA champions Kenny Smith and Chris Bosh for a quick chat. In this open court, short, guys weigh in on how Kawhi will respond to the coaching transition.
Matt, can I ask you a question about Kawhi Leonard? So I watched their game the other night, and it dawned on me that when Kawhi Leonard went to the bench, Greg Popovich wasn't there. And he met another coach.
Nick Nurse.
Right? And Nurse as his coach is not the same level of coaching as Popovich. How will Leonard respond to not getting the good stuff? Because Popovich gives you the good stuff in terms of, you know, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach.
I think he's going to bring all the stuff that Pops taught him and that whole kind of culture of the Spurs. He's going to bring that with him. And I think that by the time he gets to that bench, he's going to be processing a lot of stuff himself and saying, okay, this is what I got to do. And I think Kawhi's at that level where he's going to process a lot. But I do agree, the Popovich factor is huge, but I just believe in that kid a lot. I'm just a big fan of his, and I just think he's going to explode this year with a big year.
I thought the same thing when I watched. Exact. Yeah. It was a different mannerism when he came off the bench, came off the floor. It was totally different.
Yeah.
And that is what scares me. And what he has to be for me now is what LeBron James is. He has to go and impose Kawhi Leonard to every team now. Where before he was part of a system. As great as he was in San Antonio, it was still, man, that damn system's pretty good too. So now it's Kawhi Leonard is imposing the system around him. And he has to take a mentality that LeBron takes when he's gone to Miami, when he's come back to Cleveland, which is, I don't think he's ever done or had to do.
You guys make a great point about switching teams and going to a different environment, a different culture. And San Antonio has really been the epitome of greatness the last 20 years in the NBA. But Toronto, you know, I mean, and Nick Nurse is a first-time coach, but they had a pretty good environment there. It's not like LeBron going to the Lakers where, you know, they hadn't been in the playoffs for 3 or 4 years.
They were the #1 seed last year, yeah.
#1 seed, and LeBron's in the West now. Right. I think Kawhi, in his quiet way, I just think what he does, I don't care where you put him. I just feel like he's going to do what Kawhi does.
But granted,
and I don't mean they can win a championship.
No, I'm saying.
But I just think in terms of getting to the conference finals in a very weak Eastern Conference, I'd give Toronto the nudge over Philly.
I think you can understand this. Like, you played for Coach K. I played for Coach Knight. None of them have ever experienced what you and I experienced.
No. I had one summer with you.
I don't think nobody experienced what you experienced.
I'm talking about from that type of coaching, right? And Popovich comes from that branch, that tree of coaching, right? So when you leave that type of structure, discipline, it's a different psychological adjustment that you have to go through as a player. I'm looking at Kawhi, and I'm saying what he walked out of with Popovich from a coaching standpoint. Hey, Mac, your first couple of years, you had Bill Fitch.
Yeah.
If y'all didn't have Bill Fitch them first couple of years, your first 3 years in the pros would have been a little different.
No question.
Now it got better. You know, when KC came along, you had your little feel good, right?
Yep.
But if Fitch ain't your first coach, you know, that foundation is different for you.
There's no question.
And Popovich being his first coach, from Popovich to Nurse, hey man, that's a big difference.
That's a big
in terms
variant
of
demeanor.
Demeanor, everything, yes.
Just forget the X's and O's. Just demeanor.
Yeah, it's
a big difference.
And I don't know how he's going to respond. And sometimes
they're kind of, I'm gonna be honest.
Sometimes Kawhi need a kick in the ass. I'm sorry.
Is, and I think
sometimes
that
you got to push that play.
They have to kiss his butt a little bit because they don't want to lose him.
Yeah.
And Popovich was like, I don't care if I lose you.
Yeah.
I'm not kissing your butt at all.
Sometimes you need a kick in that. Hey, Chris Bosh, sometimes you needed a kick in that. Sam Mitchell sometimes had to say, yo, you got to do A, B, C, D, and E.
He did
Take
it
him
more
to-
than sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need. So now, can Nurse do that to
Can
Kawhi?
he nurse that situation?
You know, and that, to me, that's interesting to watch. I want my coach demanding the best from me. And when I'm not doing my job, can you motivate me and inspire me to do my job?
One last point on this. I just feel with Kawhi, you guys are great. You guys were great players. And you know when you play against a majority of your opponents, there's a fear. You can sense it. You can feel it. And when Kawhi goes against LeBron, when he goes against Durant, I don't sense any fear. I don't sense, like, he doesn't back down. LeBron may outplay him or Kevin Durant, but they're going to have to work for every point they get.
You know what, though?
And so to me, like, when you're wired a certain way,
Right.
I know his personality is a little bit different. He's a little bit more, look, I agree. Everybody needs to be pushed.
But this is what I'm saying.
And so
I agree with him in this. Think about this, Grant. The only time a great player like yourself felt less confidence when you didn't feel prepared. When all of a sudden stuff is happening on the court that you weren't prepared to see, strategically.
Right.
Because you were good enough individually.
Right.
So that's where Popovich brings in.
Right.
Strategically, you were supposed to be there. I already prepared you to be there and you weren't there. That's the environment that's different.
Okay, will we be saying this about LeBron?
No, this is
Because LeBron's going to an environment where a coach, second-year coach, and Luke Wall. I mean, like, I know LeBron.
We are saying it but we're saying he has to be like LeBron.
We didn't say
and
that when he went
impose
back to Cleveland.
No, this is
and
what-
there was a coach who we all felt like LeBron was a winner. And
But
so
this is why we
are there
got LeBron
categories
up here.
of superstar?
Yeah,
That's why we
definitely
said
different
I'm
level.
asking.
Yeah,
my
LeBron-
opening statement
LeBron way
was
up here.
he's got to be what LeBron is.
Well, those undefeated Raptors taking on the Washington Wizards in just a few minutes. Serge Ibaka started last night. Will he start tonight? We'll tell you next when we return. Welcome to Game Time, presented by State Farm. Let's take a look at the Auto Trader starting lineups. No Kawhi Leonard for the Toronto Raptors, no Dwight Howard for the Washington Wizards. So that means the Raptors, well, they're a little bit deep and, importantly, flexible roster. Coach, how does that help them absorb the absence of a dynamic talent like Kawhi Leonard?
What we've heard when we talked to Matt, who was the announcer, play-by-play guy for the Raptors, that they have not emphasized starting right now. That Nick Nurse has come in and kind of said, look, anybody could start. We have multiple guys that we can play different lineups. And he's kind of sold that in the beginning of training camp, going into the beginning games here. And they've done that in these first 2 plus now 3 games tonight. Different guys are in the lineup that weren't in there the game before. That tells you that you're deep, you're flexible, and that's a good thing. You should be able to match up with whomever you're playing.
But can that be problematic? I mean, if you know your role on the team and then it switches from game to game.
Coach, I know you said it's a good thing, but as a player, I got to disagree with you a little bit.
No, I agree with you.
Because players, you know what we like? We like stability.
Yep.
I like to know that I'm going to start or I'm not going to start. I like to know if I'm going to play 15 to 20 minutes. The hardest thing to prep for as a player is when your situation changes on a nightly basis. And we're seeing that with Ibaka in the starting lineup, being pulled out of the starting lineup. Same thing with Siakam. Players just want to know, hey, what's my role? And then I can adjust to it. Whether they like their role or not, they can adjust to it. Right now, Toronto's trying to figure some things out. And it's early. Nick Nurse is a new coach, a lot of new bodies, so this is to be expected. But at some point within the first 15 to 20 games, they have to clear it up, and it has to have clear, present role definition.
I mean, this sounds like a good problem. If you were in this position, how would you figure this out?
No, I want to go back to what Brendan said. I agree with you 100%. My guys knew if they were starters or if they were guys coming off the bench. But I was talking about what Nick Nurse is trying to sell in the beginning of his coaching career in the NBA, that it's okay right now, but eventually, like you said, you have to settle in. These 5 guys have to know, even if the matchup's not good, you're my 5 starters. And you can always sub after a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You can talk about it and shoot around that day. Listen, tonight, this isn't a good team for us to match up in. So if I come to you and take you out early and sub, I'll get you back in the rotation, but understand why we're doing it. But I don't change my starting lineup for that.
Yeah.
I just didn't do that.
Certainly a tough situation for Nick Nurse coming into the team. that finished first in the Eastern Conference last year and have to figure out all this talent and what to do with them. How will he master Pascal Siakam and the Washington Wizards? Are they going to be able to get their first win of the season? We'll get you ready for tip-off next.
Be aggressive. It's like you can't force a player to be aggressive. He has to be aggressive. And we got other guys that we can throw out with certain players, and maybe there's a better match for some guys that we just have to figure out. After one game, I'm not going to change everything that I know what our players can do. We just have to, monitor things and see who plays well with one another, and then go from there. Otto has the ability to play with any lineup.
So it sounds like Scott Brooks is still trying to figure out how many minutes he wants to give to different guys on the team. But the Raptors, as you were saying earlier, they're trying to figure out who's even in their starting lineup every night.
Well, think about this. Tonight, with Green in the backcourt along with Lowry, those two guys have played in the previous two games. They start tonight. That'll be all three. But Powell is starting tonight. He has not started a game yet. Anunoby's starting tonight. He has not started a game yet. And Valanciunas, this will be his second game out of the three.
Well, listen, like I said, man, they're mixing everything up. And, you got a couple guys in there, a couple guys that have been solidified in that lineup. I think Danny Green and Lowry are going to be fixtures in there all year long just because of what they do defensively and their ability to hit shots.
Yeah, and from the Washington Wizards side, it'd be interesting to see if Otto Porter takes more shots. In the offseason, Scott Brooks said it over and over again. We need Otto Porter to be more aggressive. And you heard him say it again there.
I think that's on John.
Ooh, interesting.
I think it's on John. If part of the point guard's responsibility is to get guys going. And I know we're in a new era of point guard where it's a run and gun type of feel, but sometimes you got to say, you know what, this guy's not getting his shots. I'm gonna call some plays for him early, see what he has. I might pass up a good shot for me to get a great shot for this guy. So I think it's on John to call some plays for Otto to get Otto's confidence going and get him going.
Let's remember now, he may not get those extra shots because you brought in three new guys who all are used to scoring. And you don't score unless you shoot the ball.
Hey.
So that shot's going somewhere else right now.
Yeah,
got to try to win, Coach. They got to try to win.
Otto Porter averaged a career-high 11 shots a game last season, and he only took 7 the other night. So we'll see how interesting it'll be to see if Otto Porter gets some shots up early against the Toronto Raptors. Let's get out to that game. Wizards, Raptors, Steve Buckhantz, Kara Lawson on the call. Enjoy.
On tonight as they take on Toronto. Wizards gave up 22 offensive rebounds to the Heat, leading to 27 second chance points. You're not going to beat many teams doing that. And the last one was a killer, the rebound by Kelly Olynyk and the putback, which, by the way, today the NBA came out with its 2-minute report, the last 2 minutes, and said that should have been a foul called on Rodney Magruder for pulling Otto Porter down. But that's in the past, and it doesn't mean much to this team. John Wall takes his first shot. It's a little long, and a loose ball foul called on Toronto. It's on Anunoby. We take a look at our Toyota Star Track. Kyle Lowry, 14.5 points against Washington. And John Wall got off to a good start in the game against Miami with 26 points. He and Beal both had over 20. Here's Porter with his first shot. And that's good to see because he didn't get many against the Heat the other night.
He sure didn't. And how good did Toronto look last night against the Boston Celtics?
Fabulous.
I mean, Kyle Lowry was terrific late. Kawhi Leonard, who's not playing tonight for the Toronto Raptors, was terrific as well. And this is a force to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. A lot of the talk preseason was centered around Boston and Philly, and I think Toronto's right there with both of those teams.
Well, they won it last year. They had the best record in the East. 59 wins was a franchise best. It wasn't enough to keep their coach, Dwayne Casey, got the axe, which you don't see very often. But, the point is it came down to the playoffs, and they wound up, after beating Washington in 6 games, getting swept by Cleveland 4-0, and that resulted in not only Dwayne Casey losing his job, but the big trade to get Kawhi Leonard, giving up DeMar DeRozan. Porter again this time. It's off the mark. But, yeah, fabulous win last night. Here's Powell inside, lays it up and in. They went on a 12-2 run to take control at the end of that game against Boston last night. Bradley Beal at the other end scores, and he's fouled on the play.
Oh, it's what you love to see from the Wizards. And this happened against the Miami Heat as well, when they were active defensively and were able to get stops. I mean, they're so much better team offensively when they can get out and run in transition. And you see the windows are wider, and Bradley Beal takes advantage of one of them.
Powell has it knocked away. Here's Wall. He's got one guy to beat. Lowry's not going to get there. These two teams know each other probably as well as any two teams in the league. They played last year 10 times, 6 in the playoffs, 4 in the regular season. And of course, in 2015, they went at it where the Wizards swept this club 4 straight, including the first 2 games, which were in Toronto. Take a look at our keys to this game, presented by your Washington area GMC dealers.
Well, it's been all the talk over the last 48 hours since that loss to the Miami Heat for the Washington Wizards, and for them it's compete on the glass. It's a must. It's necessary. For Toronto, it's leverage their depth. This was the best bench in the NBA a season ago. Even though Kawhi Leonard is out, they still have so many guys that are capable coming off their bench to make an impact.
Wall battling, gets his own rebound, and he's fouled on the putback. And so John will go to the free throw line. Wizards losing to Miami the other night, 113 to 112. And in the game, Washington missed 10 free throws. And that, I mean, you can say what you want, but you make some of your free throws and you win that game.
Yeah, in a one-point game, Buck, I mean, you can go back and look at any number of things and say, hey, if we would have done this, you know, we would have won the game. And a lot of times the final possession has more of a memorable, you know, account to it. Sure. Because you remember that last offensive rebound by Kelly Olynyk and say, well, if we would have fixed that one play. But
it's all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff through the course of the game.
Wizards with an early 7-2 lead. Lowry on the fading jump shot and bounces it in.
Oh, what a play by Kyle Lowry there. I mean, waiting till Jan Mahinmi relaxes to be able to utilize that fadeaway jump shot.
Beal gets one off the glass. It's no good. It's tipped up. It's knocked away. It's pulled down by Mahinmi, who puts it up short. Gets it again. And now here's Markieff Morris, who throws it to the official, James Williams, out of bounds.
And John Wall points to himself because he was by half court and not in scoring territory where he should have been on the floor.
Anunoby, who's got an injury, an orbital contusion sustained Wednesday against the Cavaliers, but able to go here tonight. Here's Wall driving again. This time Porter with the open jumper. That's off the mark. Tipped out of bounds by Mahinmi. It's Toronto ball.
Well, even though they haven't been makes, Buck, we've seen a change in Otto Porter in terms of his aggressiveness here early on. Did not take a three-point shot in that loss to Miami. Already taken 2, 1 for 3 on the evening. So that's the aggressiveness you like to see from OP.
Here's a guy who was 3rd in the league in three-point shooting percentage last year, and as you said, didn't take 1 three-pointer in that game against Miami. Well, that's an offensive rebound that the Wizards were talking about. Nobody boxed out Valanciunas. And he gets it back and gets second chance points. Otto Porter did tie his career high against Miami with 3 blocks in that game. The Wizards had 15 blocks in that game. First time they've done that since 1987 as that long shot goes in. And in that game in 1987 against Boston, Manute Bol had 12 of those 15 blocks. How about that?
I remember watching Manute Bol growing up, and that was especially of his.
I do too, but I was already grown.
I wouldn't have guessed, Buck.
Here's Otto again, and that one's a little strong, so unable to find the range. And Toronto has cut it to 2. Lowry. Nice pass for Valanciunas, but it's taken away by the strong arms of Jan Mahinmi, who's working on his strength in the offseason. Great pass to Porter. Lowry into the corner. 3 ball going up and out. Rebound to Valanciunas. Got pushed a little bit. Still trying to get it back. Knocked away twice. It's on the line. They'll give it to Toronto with 10 to shoot.
I'll tell you, that was an excellent play by Otto Porter in the rotation. He was a little bit late, but used his physicality to bump Valanciunas off the ball. And this is a nice give and go in transition. just the way you draw it up. Great find there by Bradley Beal.
Off the inbound, pretty play. Danny Green knocks it down, part of that deal with Kawhi Leonard for DeMar DeRozan. Again, Leonard getting a break tonight. This is the third game in 4 nights for the Raptors, so they've decided to give him a break. He played in back-to-back games in the preseason, so that's not really the issue, but you got to start pacing yourself at some point. Wall knocks one down from 13 feet. Coming off a good game against Miami, 26 points, 9 assists, 3 blocks in that game. Wow, inside, easy 2 for Anunoby. Wall launches a 3, short off the front of the rim, rebound Anunoby. Powell loses it, back. Pass underneath for Anunoby. Valanciunas thinking about it. Now he gets in the lane. He lays it up. He's fouled on the play. Got by his defender, and that's all it took. 6:25 to go in a fast-paced first quarter from D.C. The Wizards hanging on to a 1-point lead.